Dr. Devi Mohan, Vice Chairperson, Saraswathi Vidyalaya, Principal Saraswathi Vidyalaya, Mrs. Shailaja Or, the Business Head of Manorama Horizon, Dr. Rajiv Ramachandran, all the students, faculty, and other dignitaries, everybody, just a warm welcome to everyone. For me, this entire journey to civil services was one which went through very lot of difficulties for me. But our journey, before I actually tell you about my journey, I just wanted to tell that this should be an interactive session. So I think I don't know how much time I have been given for to speak or something, but since my time is also very short and limited in how much I can give here, so what I'll do is that I'll speak for 5 minutes and then I will throw open the floor so that you can those who want to ask questions in general regarding civil services and with respect to my job or profession or something of that sort, anybody can do that. So you're free to do that. So I'll just speak for 5 minutes. I think it's better that the session is interactive. Another thing is that my throat is in a very bad condition, so I can't speak much. Too many meetings. When you have too many meetings continuously, you can't, you lose your voice. So therefore, I'll just begin with the point that the civil services is basically, as all of you know, is basically particularly with respect to the All India services. There are only 3 All India services. One is the Indian Administrative Service, second is the Indian Forest Service, and the third is the Indian Police Service. The All India Service in particular is considered as a steel framework of our country. So it's basically pulls everything together, unites our country, and there are different reasons why it's called the steel frame. But before I go into those aspects as well, I just want to highlight the fact that the entire process of the examination, about that I can just give you a brief intro about that scene. So firstly, examination has 3 stages. Firstly, there is prelims, then there is mains, then there is interview. As soon as you're a graduate or you're 21 years of age, you're eligible to write the civil service exam. And up to the age of 32, for general candidates up to the age of 32, you can give the exam. 6 attempts are there for general candidates, and for other reserved categories, the number of attempts are more. So I cleared the exam in my second attempt after completing my masters in economics. So as you can understand, it is not so easy to clear the exam in the first try itself. There are only very few people who clear the exam in the first attempt, and around roughly 5 to 6 lakhs. Roughly around 5 to 6 lakh students, aspirants write the exam every year, out of which around 12,000 are selected for mains. Out of the 12,000, roughly 3,000 come for the interview, and out of the 3,000 finally, roughly around 700 to 1,000 students are selected for the, aspirants are selected for the civil services. So they basically 0.001% is the acceptance rates. So basically 1 in 100 aspirants only make it. And in the IAS, there are only 180 vacancies. Out of that, 90 is for general and 90 is for reserved category. So basically you have to be the top 100 out of this 5 lakh to 6 lakh aspirants if you want to get into the Indian Administrative Service, because almost all aspirants, their preference is the Indian Administrative Service. Okay, so with respect to how I cleared the examination, just brief just 3 കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയാനുണ്ട്. Firstly, you must have a hunger or ambition for clearing something or for achieving something in life, be it anything, not just specific to civil services, but anything in your life you must have hunger or ambition. That is very important. Similarly, you should be honest towards yourself. There should be honesty. And finally, the third thing I would put forward is humility. These three H, I call them as three H, on hunger, honesty and humility. These three things should always be there in whatever thing that you want to achieve in life. I mean, you want to be a doctor, or you want to be an engineer, or you want to be a civil service a civil service officer. Anybody who you want to be, these three H, honesty, hunger, humility, has always is something that I've always kept in my mind for whatever I do. So, just I want to narrate a small story regarding this. One of my batchmates, I mean, actually, the topper of my batch is Ira Singhal. Many of you already are aware of her. She is actually a differently abled officer, and the first differently abled officer to clear the examination with rank 1. So she did not clear through the PH category itself. She directly, her merit itself was such that she managed to get into rank 1. So it was my privilege to be her batchmate, and even to this day, after 7 years of clearing the examination, after entering into the service, we are great friends. She was my Bharat Darshan batchmate also. During the training time, we go for 1 month entire tour across India. That is known as Bharat Darshan. So she was my Bharat Darshan mate also. So that time we had bonded together and developed good strong friendship. So what I can say about her is that she was an achiever throughout her life. Okay, from the beginning itself, her parents were always supporting her in everything. So due to because she's differently abled, there are many avenues that were closed for her. So she after completing her engineering from NSIT, that is Netaji Subhash Chandra Institute of Technology in Delhi. After that, she did her MBA from FMS. That is also one of the top B schools in the country. After doing her MBA from FMS, she worked in the corporate sector for a long time. But she always had that that hunger, the desire to achieve something more. So she wanted to enter into civil services. So she wrote the examination, but despite multiple attempts, she was not able to clear. In the third or fourth attempt, I think she cleared, and she was given the Indian Customs Service. So when she got the Indian Customs Service, unfortunately the way the rules were interpreted for her, it was at a disadvantage for her. If you are a differently abled candidate, there are a lot of specifications on how or very specific criteria on how you are able to enter into the service. So the Indian Customs Service is a uniform service. So obviously, being a uniform service, there are conditions with respect to your physical requirements and so on and so forth. But even then, those requirements were not stringent enough, and that she should not actually been debarred from entering into the service. But she was, and she had to fight a case against that. Finally, she managed to win the case and enter into customs service. But by that time, she had wrote the examination again and managed to get into the civil service. My point is that it's because she was always an achiever in life, and despite all of her achievements, she always had that hunger, that ambition to finally reach her goal, that is being in the Indian Administrative Service. So therefore, no matter what happens, there are some things in your life that are constant, and one of that is your goals and your ambition. So with respect to today's event session, actually dream big. The idea of having a dream is what? So that you believe in it. And most important thing that you should understand is that dreams never die. Dreams never die. As long as you believe in that dream, even if you are not able to achieve it today, there may come a time, at least tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you will be able to achieve the same thing. So hunger is something that is very important in that regard. Another thing that I want to specifically mention is basically the other two H, basically humility and as well as honesty. So I had another batchmate whose story I would want to recount here. So his name is Dr. Raja Ganpati. He's currently he's in the Uttar Pradesh cadre of the Indian Administrative Service. So he's a doctor actually. He's an MBBS doctor, and he studied from Stanley Medical College in Chennai. He's a gold medalist there actually. So he was already the topper of his batch in medicine also, but he wanted to enter in civil services. So despite being a gold medalist in MBBS and all, you would have imagined that he would have cleared the examination quickly, but he did not. So he wrote the examination first time. In the very first stage, he failed. He wrote the examination again in the second time. Again, he failed in the prelims. And in the third time, he again wrote the examination. He failed in the prelims. Fourth time, he again wrote the examination. Again, he failed in the prelims. 4 successive years, he wrote the examination and he failed in the preliminary stage itself. Okay, so it so happened that when for the Bharat Darshan, again he was my Bharat Darshan batchmate. So when we visited his home in Chennai, during a Bharat Darshan, I saw a vehicle, a Scorpio vehicle. So in Tamil Nadu they write the names of the people behind the vehicle also. So so basically Dr. Raja Ganpathi's name and his brother's name is written on the back of the vehicle, of the Scorpio vehicle. So that is how he told the story. He said that after he cleared his after he failed in the 4th attempt, basically he was very dejected, very depressed and sad, and so he went and met his parents, and his parents said, "It's okay, you can give another shot." So his father said that, I have a gift for you. I have a gift for you. So he said, "What is the gift? I failed in the examination 4 times. Why are you giving me a gift?" So his father said that it is something for me to decide, and I am giving this gift to you so that you have continued to have belief in yourself. So he went outside and showed the gift. So that is basically he bought a new Mahindra Scorpio, and that Scorpio he bought for his son actually and his brother actually. And so he said that, "Oh, thank you." He thanked his father and all, and his father said, "There is a reason why I gave this gift to you. Okay, the reason is that basically I believe that next year you will clear this examination, and when you clear this examination, I will write your name and your designation beneath it in the back of the car." So that is the belief that I had. So he had, and he told this to his son, and Dr. Raja Ganpathy again wrote the examination. The 5th time, he cleared the prelims, the mains, the interview, and finally cleared the examination. So just the simple act of having a belief from your support system, be it your parents or be it your school, in your teachers, from your teachers, all of that support system that you all have around you, that can make a profound impact on what you achieve in life. So it's very important that you have a support system. That support system, be it your parents or your friends or your parents, they should be able to help you out in your worst of your times. Those people who stick with you in the worst of your times are your true friends, and you can say are the people who really care about you and love you. So please take that into account. Ensure that you have a support system, and it's only through this support system that you can be honest to yourself and you can be humble enough in your life in wherever you go. So these 3 things that are important lessons that I had in my journey for civil services. So I'm not speaking any further in this regard. I don't want it to be a monotonous lecture or something of that sort. So therefore, I request the students here right now to please ask me questions regarding whatever you want to ask regarding civil services, or for that matter my experiences or anything for that matter.
My name is Neha. I am from 12A and I have taken the science batch. So I have a question for you. As you know, there is a growing number of students taking the civil service exams in their regional languages. So in your opinion, how important is one's language skills in clearing the exams?
You can write the examination in any of the scheduled languages that is mentioned in the Indian Constitution. So in 22 languages you can write the examination. Apart from that, you can write it in English also. So therefore, there is no restriction in that regard with respect to language. The most important thing is that in whatever language that you write the examination, you can also choose the language for the interview also. Whatever language you want for your interview as well. So that is also up to you also. That need not be necessarily English. If you are choosing another language, there will be a translator for you in the interview. So therefore, what I would say is that whatever language you choose, make sure that you are proficient in that language. That's all. You should be proficient enough to articulate all your points or whatever that is in your mind properly, because your writing skills depend on your proficiency in that language. So therefore, naturally, whatever language you choose, you should be very proficient in it. You should be articulate enough in that. If you are articulate enough, there is no problem in writing in any language you want, as long as it is any of these 22 languages. Okay, there are many people who have cleared the examination by writing it in Malayalam, or for that matter in other regional languages. So there is, Hindi, for example, many people from North India also write the examination completely in Hindi. They will also give their interview also in Hindi. So I myself know one person who is right now in the Indian Revenue Service, 2011 batch, who wrote the examination in Malayalam, and still he cleared the examination without any problem. So there is no issues like that. Just be proficient in the language that you choose. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Lakshan Nalar of 12F. So my question is, at what point should one start preparation for civil services seriously? Should we start from school itself?
Yeah, so see, I sit down, I can sit. So my point is that, whenever people talk about civil services, they say that it's my childhood dream and all. It was never my childhood dream. I would like to say it very clearly, and a good portion of people who clear the examination also never had civil services as their childhood dream. Okay, for example, I decided to write this examination, almost after my graduation, you could say that. So that late, I had actually decided. There are people who decide even late, even more late. Once they take a job and they say that this job is not fit for them in the private sector, they decide to quit and resign and try and attempt for the civil services. So people take this decision of whether to write the civil service examination, at any point in their career. So it need not be that you should have this dream now itself, and now itself you should start preparing for it. There is nothing, no hard and fast rule for that. So this entire idea that you should, there are people who say that we should start studying from class 4 and class 5 for civil services, which I think are absurd. You can't study for an examination which you are going to supposedly write next after 15 years by studying from class 4 and class 5. So if now many of you might be writing the JEE examination and all. I'm sure most of you had your foundation course for that in +1, +2. Some of you had done your foundation in 8th, 9th and 10th class also. So all that kind of preparatory work, that is a personal choice. I would say that as long as you have a thorough awareness about the world, and and you're interested in reading and you have good writing skills, then no matter which time you decide to write for the examination, you can always clear the exam. See, the important point you should all understand is that anybody can clear the exam. Anybody can clear the exam, but only thing is that everybody doesn't clear the exam. That's all. Okay. Anybody can clear the exam regardless of your stream, regardless of whatever subject you have studied earlier. And that decision to write the examination can be taken anytime. Only thing is that you should have an interest for it. That's very important. A hunger for it, as I said earlier. And the third thing is that you should ensure that you should never have a never die approach. Don't give up in this regard. Whatever that you select, you should at least give honestly 2 proper attempts for this examination. After the second attempt, if you don't clear, you should always have a plan B. Is what I always say. Because as I said, everybody doesn't clear this examination. And towards the very top, it's a matter of luck and chance. 1 marks difference is all that makes a difference between one service and another service. It is possible that on that particular day when you're writing the examination, you forgot to write 2 extra points. But you always had practiced those 2 extra points in your mock exams. Just because you did not write those 2 points, you accidentally missed it, you might have lost 1 mark, and because you lost that 1 mark, you got a service below your preferred service, or got some other cadre other than your home cadre. Okay, so towards the very end, towards the very top, it's really a matter of chance and luck. But again, as the saying goes, the more prepared you are, the more lucky you are. Okay, so naturally being well prepared always ensures that you can mitigate against the random chance factor. Okay, so again, അങ്ങനെ childhood dream ഒന്നും ആവശ്യമൊന്നുമില്ല. You can prepare it anytime you want for it, as long as you have a good awareness and aptitude for the exam. Okay.
So myself Ritika from 12G. I have chosen commerce batch. So my question is that, do you remember the most difficult question you faced in your personality development test in your civil service interview?
Yeah, it's certainly true. I mean, like personality, as you rightly pointed out, see the interview is actually a personality test. For in the civil services examination perspective, the interview is actually a personality test. It does not test your knowledge, because your knowledge has already been tested in prelims and means, the second two stages, the first two stages. So therefore, personality development is is something that you should certainly focus on. I was an introvert when I was studying in school, so I rarely used to speak out. I rarely used to interact with my teachers in the school, but I knew all the answers. I mean, whatever the teachers taught, generally I had already done the thing already, or whatever exam, questions they had given, I would have already solved it. For example, maths was something that I really loved. So whatever, I used to compete with my other students in class to ensure that I would try to finish the solution for the problem at the quickest possible time. So that kind of a, interest and aptitude I had in academics. But with respect to my personality, it was only when I went to college, decided to open up. St. Stephen's, when I went to St. Stephen's, it's a very difficult college. I mean, difficult to get into. As soon as you enter into college, it's a very different ball game altogether. Because if you want to survive there and want to make some mark in the college, you have to really change yourself dramatically. My first 1 year in St. Stephen's was perhaps the most difficult 1 year in my academic life, because I had to struggle, I had to adapt. Just imagine, your batch, roughly 300 students in St. Stephen's are coming from all the different corners of the country, and they're all the best students you can possibly imagine. They're all school captains, leaders, or monitors, or prefects. They're all 99 percenters. They're all academic achievers, overachievers. They must have started a dozen NGOs on their own by the time they reach St. Stephen's. Some of them are the children of politicians, ex-bureaucrats or actors, so on and so forth. So it's like the entire batch of 300 is like a celebrity batch. Most of the people whom would actually become celebrities in the future, or they already are celebrities. So therefore, I had to go through this 1 year of dramatic change. So my point is that there will come times in your academic life when you will have the opportunity to develop your personality. The best way to develop your personality is to take up responsibility. That's all I want to say. Okay, when you take up a responsibility, when you take an initiative, immediately you say yes to something. When you say yes to something, you take up a responsibility, you're taking an initiative. To complete that activity, you need a drive, you need motivation. So once you have an initiative, drive, motivation, that immediately starts changing your personality. And by the time, if you continue this routine, in a couple of years' time, you will develop leadership skills. So therefore, personality development is, part and parcel of your academic life. I mean, just simply reading all the time would not help you, obviously. So try to be, take up responsibilities and, take up as many initiatives as possible. If you do that, automatically your personality development will come into play and things will be better. So, I mean, one of the questions that is commonly asked in civil services, why do you want to join civil services? Another question that they generally ask is about your hobbies. What are your hobbies? So you have to write specifically. There's a bio, a sheet, a CV that is there for all the interviews in the board. So they go through that. So you have to specifically write your hobbies. So if you just write reading, they can ask 1,000 questions on reading in the interview board. Okay, so and who's your author? Who's your favorite author? Why you like him? What are his books? They must have already read all those books. They must have met the author also, the interview panelists. So naturally, whatever hobby you also select also matters. So selecting having a good hobby is also part and parcel of your personality development. Something that you should not disregard in your academic life is what I want to suggest. Yeah.
Sir, I am Abdullah. I am studying in class 2G, Humanities Batch. Sir, already you have shared with experiences that aspired you to get IAS officer. Can I remember a moment in your civil service career which inspired you the most, that an act you were glad to do as an IAS officer?
See, I was Ottapalam sub-collector, or that is basically, it's one of the most difficult subdivisions in the state of Kerala. I was Ottapalam sub-collector from the year 2017 to 2019. Ottapalam sub-collector is also given the charge of being the nodal officer for the development activities in Attapadi. Attapadi comes under the Ottapalam subdivision region. Okay, it was in my tenure that unfortunate incident of Madhu happened, where a young tribal, tribal youth was lynched, and he died in Attapadi, so that incident happened just 3 months after I had joined into the taken charge as Ottapalam sub-collector. So the repercussions of that incident, subsequently all the challenges that I had to face was something that was, that really molded me as an officer, because it is my first charge that I had taken in my career. So one of the things that I, really, I loved actually, and made me proud of what I was doing is basically related to this entire incident itself was that, there are two things actually. One is, the fact that, as a subdivisional magistrate, you have to do the inquest once a person dies under police custody. So Madhu was unfortunately in police custody when he had died. So I was the one who did the inquest, and it was my responsibility to actually, talk to the family, placate them, try to ensure that, we can complete the entire inquest process, because there was a big public protest and crowd outside where I was doing the inquest. Ensure that the body is sent for post-mortem, and ensure that proper respects are paid to Madhu, and homage is paid to his family also. So that entire effort of outreach, when there is so much of public pressure on you, that is something that I, for me as an officer, I feel that really pushed me to my limits. And because I remember, I stopped actually eating. I could not even drink water or eat food from morning till night. I will go in the morning at 5 o'clock. Attapadi, to reach Attapadi from Ottapalam, it takes 2.5 hours. And it's a very difficult road. Okay, you have to reach there. And it's a world in itself, Attapadi. Okay, you will get lost in that. So it's so humongous. In fact, it's almost 70% of the size of Alapura district. So therefore, for days and days it pushed me to my limit. But looking back now, I would say, the entire effort to reach out and what all we did during that time, at least had some measure in ensuring that we could smoothen out the process in due course of time. Another thing that I really liked is is that there is something known as the Forest Rights Act. Okay, Forest Rights Act of 2005. It's a landmark act. Okay, because for the Adivasis and for the tribes in India, they have always been in a state of conflict since the time of the British, because they're living in the forest. At the same time, they have lot of land. They're dependent on forest for their livelihood, and the land in the forest under their possession, they don't have any right to it. So under Forest Rights Act, there is something known as a record of right. Just like what we say in Malayalam, Pattayam. It's an equivalent of Pattayam in FRA, that is known as record of rights. So, when I took charge, I noticed that there were some 2,000 applications pending in Forest Rights Act there. Okay, so how do we process these applications so quickly is what my main concern was. So what we did was that we identified and trained 10 tribal youth. And we gave them GPS devices. One of the most important crucial challenges in preparing a record of right is you have to map. You have to survey the plot that is under their possession. So for that you can bring government surveys also, but that takes a long time and takes a lot of money. So we just trained them how to use these GPS devices, so that these people could go to their own hamlets. They went to these urs. They themselves did all the mapping of their own of this land, and they themselves prepared the sketch, and they themselves presented it before me, so that I can pass it on to the district collector, the district level committee to approve it. So in the process, we managed to clear around, process around 1,000 plus applications, and in my tenure itself, we were able to give 200. So that entire process of you giving 200 RORs and 1,000 per times additionally for the land test in Attapadi, but when you see your signature on that moment, when you give a rega or a document to a person who has a right and you're recognizing that right, I felt was one of the most inspiring moments in my career. That's something that I feel, no other job in this country can give you that power, because you are recognizing a right. That is a legal power, a statutory power that cannot be given, that you can never get it in any private sector. So that kind of satisfaction, one signature itself is priceless. Okay, so your contribution for that, I would say, is something that that my effort for that is something is that I will always cherish as a memory. Thank you.
Morning, sir. I'm from 12. First of all, I'd like to thank you for such an inspirational speech. Yeah. As ma'am said, it's a rare opportunity. You don't get it every day. So my question is, like, as students, we always face many problems, and especially financial support, lack of financial support, and students who come from remote areas and differently abled students are there. So as an IAS officer, what would you like to, what help can you ensure us?
I mean, as an officer, which position I work is basically how I'm able to contribute in this regard. So, I mean, for example, during my tenure as a sub-collector, for those students who were even in the most remote areas in the tribal regions of Attapadi, we ensured that the existing MRS hostels, they were upgraded, they were renovated. We ensured that transportation facilities under the Gotra Bandhu scheme, that is provided for them. So all those small initiatives is something that you can do in your own capacity. For me, as a district collector in Trivandrum, I've just taken charge. It's been only 10 days, less than 10 days since I've taken charge. One of my priority areas is certainly ensuring that children who are in the margins, so-called margins as we call it, who are the most disadvantaged, particularly children from children's home. For example, we have 3 homes here in Trivandrum district itself, run by the government itself. Then we have the model residential schools here in Trivandrum itself. So my effort would be to reach out to those students, so as to ensure that for maybe the infrastructure and the facilities that they are enjoying, maybe it's not as good as, for example, you are enjoying here in this school. So we have to ensure that that disparity is not there. Second thing is to ensure that exposure should be there. So what I am planning is having a day with the collector, a kind of an initiative in which I spend one entire day with these students. I'll go and visit this children's home, this MRS, probably take them out, bring them to my office, give them a sneak peek into what a collector does, and spend some quality time with them. So something that will give them exposure, which is something that they lack, something that you are very privileged to get here in this school, but something they may perhaps not be able to get. So getting exposure makes a big difference, I would say. The kind of exposure you get based on the institution that you study, has a huge difference in where you end up in life. So those are the 2 things that I would primarily focus on. One is ensuring the facilities that are there, that they exist, that they already have, that is improved. Second thing is that we ensure that they get as much exposure as possible. One thing that I want to point out is that being the capital city, Trivandrum, it's a very fast growing dynamic city, one of the most livable cities in the state of India itself actually. So in this regard, those city dwellers like us, particularly those who are well off, we have a responsibility for those who are staying on the margins and in the outskirts of the Trivandrum district, at the very end of the Trivandrum, the so-called margins that I call, geographical margins and social margins, socio-economic margins. So it's our responsibility to reach out to such areas to ensure that whatever facilities or whatever privilege that we have, they are also able to get something of that sort. So, the city is growing, so there's a lot of wealth that is getting generated in the city. That Karukuttam Bhagam, Techno Park area, and many other aspects, the southern side, Vilnius is coming. So, the city is dynamically growing, and with the coming of an outer ring road and the entire growth of the capital region in general, the city will dynamically grow enormously in the next 10 years or so. So, with that, all that wealth that being generated, there will be a lot of inequality also. So, we have to ensure that those who are well off amongst us, we should reach out to those who are not so well off. And in my capacity as a collector, I want to set up a platform, a forum in which such people will be able to reach out to them. So where I will be able to organize and coordinate and ensure that credible projects, trustworthy projects are put up before such people, and where in which they can contribute for such people is what the main focus will be in my tenure. So hopefully I will be able to do something in this regard. I've been thinking about in this last 10 days or so, and I think with people like your support, even students like you can contribute also, we can make a difference. Thank you. So I think I just wrap up everything. I have said almost everything that's possibly to be said under the sun. I'm sure you have a lot of other questions also. Any time you feel you want to just meet the district collector, you can drop in. Okay. Again, my doors are always open. Okay. There's nothing like you collector ne karan vendi appointment edukkanam. Adyam CA ne vilikkanam. Adu kayittu CA samayam nokkittu schedule nokkittu adil nokkittu free aano free allengil possible alla sir ne kaanan pettathilla. Agane kore barriers undu. But for you and for everybody else here, you can say any particular concern you have or anything you want to do, kindly drop in. The collector's doors are always open. Okay, so it's my responsibility to always be accessible. So, thank you.